Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Ben and Nate's Questions That We Ask People on the Internet. I'm one half of your host, Nate Fay. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I'm an osteopathic manual therapist, and when I'm not in my practice, I'm on the road teaching for Eric Dalton and the Freedom from Pain Institute.
And I'm Ben Stone. I'm the other guy that helps make this show happen. I've been a massage therapist for over 20 years. I've done everything you can think of in the massage therapy world. Maybe not everything, but one of the things I like to do the best is get together and talk with Nate on this little show that we call Ben and Nate's Questions We Ask People on the Internet. So how you been, Nate?
I've been good, buddy. I just taught a great class for the New York chapter of the American Massage Therapy Association this weekend.
That's awesome. You've been getting out and doing some work with the AMTA chapters, haven't you?
Yeah, that was my third time working with New York, and I've worked with a few other chapters throughout New England, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and they've all been really good, positive experiences. As we speak now, the big convention in Tampa is going on right now.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And this is our 25th anniversary. No, it's not our 25th anniversary, but it's our 25th show.
We've done this 25 times?
25 times.
You know what I tell people in massage workshops that I attend and I help with? I tell people, do this technique 1,000 times and you've done it once. Then do that 1,000 times. Then you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
So we still have a little ways to go before we really get into our groove. But 25, man, that's awesome. I want to thank everybody for sticking with us through 25 episodes.
I think it's pretty awesome. This show's only getting better. And tonight, Ben and I were discussing changing out our show name, and we're going to have our final decision next time. So we're going to do a quick little rebrand as well.
Yeah, we're going to make it easier for you guys to find us, like us, listen to us, all that good stuff.
That reminds me of what you just said. Eric tells a story when he got done with Rolfing school. And they said, well, you're not really a rolfer until you've actually practiced for another 10,000 hours. It's like, wow.
Yeah, that's the something that gets thrown out a lot. And I kind of learned this from Doug Nelson, who talks about practice. Like, how often do we practice as massage therapists? And, they throw out the 10,000 hour rule. After 10,000 hours, you're considered an expert. But he qualifies that with saying, it's 10,000 hours of mindful practice, not just practicing, let's just say the same chord over and over. Yeah, you're going to get good at that chord, but are you getting good at anything else? Are you challenging yourself to evolve?
Yep.
And I think we've had an episode about that before, haven't we?
That's true. And we can talk about it over and over and over.
We could. We like to bring up stuff that we've talked about in the past, but let's talk about the present. What are we talking about today, Nate?
Well, we had a question about imposter syndrome for this week.
Yeah. So, I always like to throw out a question or a joke. So I kind of have an imposter syndrome joke for you.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'm afraid that it's not going to be that funny, and someone else has probably already done it. And you might pretend to laugh at me, but it's the joke's really not that good in the first place. And I'm not even funny at all, funny enough to tell this joke anyway. So I'm just going to stop. How's that for an imposter syndrome joke?
Another good one. Another winner.
Got to lead us into it.
That's right.
Well, how about I just read off our question to our listeners. Here's how it read on the internet as we asked it. Do you suffer from imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you deal with it? Pretty simple, straightforward question, but
very straightforward. And we had several really thoughtful and thorough responses. But how about you, buddy? Have you ever suffered from imposter syndrome?
Nate, I am the king of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I think I might have even mentioned this to you before when I wanted to, when we talked about creating this podcast, I decided, I'm not good enough. I don't think people will really listen to me or think that I'm credible enough. So I got to find the great Nate Faye, and I'm going to hide behind him because he's so great, knows so much, and I only know a little. So people will think that I know something just because I'm on a show with Nate. Did I tell you that story before?
No, you didn't tell me that
Those are the
story.
things that go through my head. I'll tell you, since I was a young massage therapist, probably 5 years in, I constantly ask myself this question: is massage really doing anything? Am I really doing anything? Or is this all smoke and mirrors?
Right.
And it's a question I still ask myself today. Like, am I helping people, or is it just a bunch of baloney that I'm telling myself?
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to get into as far as imposter syndrome goes, but I want to ask you, how about you? Do you suffer from imposter syndrome?
I think we all have at some point, and I'm actually gonna start off with one of the answers we got to roll into my answer.
I think I know
And
what you're going to talk about, and I can't wait for you to get into this.
well, one of our buddies, Scott, talks about how he doesn't like the name,
Yeah,
right? Signing labels can validate our feelings and move through them, makes it sound like someone you're not. And if you went to school and got your license, then you're a massage therapist. You're not an imposter. The only reason someone might feel that way is inexperience or comparing themselves to others. And and he goes on to say that he tells his students that today they are the best, that's where they're at, right? And it's true. Talk about living in the moment, and imposter syndrome may not be an example of living in the moment, but you know, I think that we've all fallen. He says, but don't fall victim to feeling inadequate, right? But I think we've all felt inadequate at some point in our lives. I think that's like a pretty human function to feel that way about something. And I kind of like what you were going on. I mean, just the aspect of therapy alone, right? Am I really doing what I learned in school? Am I really doing what I learned from other people? Is that really happening the way I affect somebody? Or who knows? And there's certainly times that I felt like that. I remember when um all the research and stuff started to really pour out in 16 and 17, and techniques came in the question, and modalities came in the question, and how we affected the body came in the question. And I sat
absolutely.
back and I'm like, oh my God, I'm living on a throne of lies. And I was like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. I felt like a liar. I felt like an imposter, right? I navigated through a lot of that information. And sort of, as we've said over and over again, I've learned how to rewrite my story a little bit, right? To not necessarily feel that way. And yeah, yes, we are living in the moment and we're being the best that we can be in the moment. But I don't know. It's the whole conversation we had earlier about, 10,000 hours of doing something. Does it really take 10,000 hours to master something, or is it bigger and completely different than that? Right.
Yeah, and the question is, can you really ever master anything? So I think about all the people that I've learned from. I've
Mm,
taken courses from Tom Myers, Eric Dalton, James Wozlowski, you name it. I've taken classes from them, and I look to them as masters, correct? But
for
if you were to
sure.
ask them, where do you sit? They might say, well, I still have a lot to learn. So is there
Right.
really mastering everything? There's just different levels of your knowledge.
Right. There's the how long have you been a massage therapist for? Well, I've been a massage therapist for 25 years. And the question is, well, what have you done in that 25 years? Is 25 years really a long time? Or a while back on my Facebook page, I posted a little story from one of my music teachers, Anthony Wellington, who talked about years versus hours, right? You could be a massage therapist for 5 years and have studied for 10, 20,000 hours and have seen all types of clients versus the 25-year-old massage therapist that may have only put in several thousand hours of work over that 25 years.
Yeah. I've mentioned before that I'm kind of learning about photography. Man, there's so much to talk about. But I'm going to talk about how photography kind of relates to massage therapy in that if you're not challenging yourself, how are you going to evolve in what you do? I'm not going to say get better, but evolve. So one of the things that I do is I challenge myself to go out to the same spot every day and try to find new compositions in things that I've looked at every day. And that's one of the things that I thought would challenge my growth. And so the same thing with massage therapy is what kind of things are you doing? You know, you may do the same techniques over and over, but are you challenging yourself to find those little tweaks, those little differences in either applying the technique, connecting with the person on the table, or what are you doing to challenge yourself to evolve?
Right? It's how you tell your story. And I'm reading a great book right now called The Lesson. It's called The Music Lesson. And it's kind of about what we're talking about tonight. And, but it's just put into the world of music. And, one of the conversations in the book that I like that there's only 12 notes, in the essentially 12 notes and only 12 notes to sort of speak this vast, vast language. I mean, there's millions of songs, there's millions of genres of music. And with 12 notes, there's a lot of stories told, right? And with the English language, how many words exist in the English language?
All of
I
them.
don't know. All of them. We speak a lot of them. And we can tell you and I can get together every week and have these big conversations and these different conversations. And I could choose out of, say, if let's say 200 techniques. I don't really know how many techniques that I could pull out of my Rolodex if I needed to. But if you probably like realize it, you probably use a lot of the same techniques session per session per session, right? But every time you use those same techniques, the way you're telling that story via your hands it's going to be completely different client to client. It might be a nuance on how you uh, perform it, your hand placement, how you move through it. And, with like 12 or 15 really solid techniques, you can tell a very different story 5, 6, 7 times a day with each client, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's like a pretty interesting thing to talk about to think about, right? And those 12 techniques or 15 techniques don't have to make a routine, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So what I'm hearing is it's almost like what if I pull out a golf bag and you have so many clubs in your bag, but you play those clubs differently in different situations and different games every time.
sure, for sure. And I think some of the best athletes do that too, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the pitcher's going to throw the same ball. He's going to throw it, several different ways throughout the game.
Yeah.
With the imposter thing, though, right? So there's the imposter of you and I probably feeling that way in our treatment room with our clients, right? Am I really helping them? Or as you said earlier, is it all just smoke and mirrors? And I've certainly felt that way.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of different layers to imposter syndrome. And I really like what Scott said. He's like, if you've been to massage school, you are a massage therapist. But to me, I understand I'm a massage therapist. I have that license that says I am licensed to practice massage therapy in my state. But I still doubt, I still have self doubt about what I do, that I'm not good enough, that, my knowledge isn't enough. And there's so many different layers. And so that's one of them is the self doubt. Another one is comparing yourself to others. And I think this is a big one, especially when I started getting into the more clinical world of massage, clinical and orthopedic massage, where there's a lot more manual tests, orthopedic tests, testing and retesting, as opposed to just working on people. And I learned from some of these instructors, and I see other people and they're like, oh, I'm fixing people left and right. I'm like, why am I not fixing people left and right? What am I doing wrong? Where did I get
Right.
things wrong? And so there's this comparison that you should be fixing people all the time, which fix is a huge word. It's 3 letters, but it's a huge word, isn't it?
It's a huge word. And yeah, man, there's been plenty of classes that I've been in, and there's a lot of magic happening in the front of the room. And then I've gone back and tried to recreate that same magic. And, I fell on my face. And then I thought, well, maybe it's me. What am I doing wrong? I'm doing everything that person told me to do. Right. And then some.
Yeah.
Well,
And there's so many different layers in a treatment room. It's not just applying the technique, it's connecting with that person on the table for a specific reason and having goals and all this stuff. Um,
right.
so one of the things that one of the part of the question that we asked was, do you suffer from imposter syndrome, and if so, how do you deal with it? I'm going to tell you, looking at this question, I've dealt with this question several times throughout the past 15 years.
Mm.
And so one of the things that I've done most recently is I've dove back into The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. Are you familiar with that book?
No, I'm not.
She's good. Brene Brown's got a lot of good stuff. I've also read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She is the one who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. You
Yep.
might be familiar with that book. Um, but one of the things that I constantly go back to is a quote I found a few years ago, and I forget who said it. I think it's Maya Angelou, and it goes, you do the best with what you know, and when you know better, you do better. And for some
Mm.
reason, that just seems to calm me down when I'm kind of freaking out. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't. How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna help somebody? I'm like, you do the best with what you know now, and forget it.
Right.
When you know better, when you learn more from Nate, when he teaches you more, when you go to his class in Canada, you learn more and you do better then. So
So true.
yeah. So right now we are the worst massage therapists we're gonna be, and we're only gonna get better. Is that
Yeah.
how that goes? The way Scott put it.
I think so. You also have to want to, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's this element of in all aspects of life, not in just massage, but all aspects of life, right? Resistance to learning. And it's especially adults, I think. I think adults are very can have a tendency to be resistant to learning, right? It challenges our ego. It challenges who we are as professionals, right? It takes all those things into question. And I mean, we've been in enough continuing education classes. I've taught enough. And, you kind of see that in the beginning, right? There's like this little bit of people are excited to learn, but you can tell there's this moment of, I'm now going to be challenged, right? That teacher might ask me a question and I might not know the answer to it. But I guess my attitude is well, at the end of class, you're going to know the answer to it, right?
Yeah.
uh back to the book, it's like, what are you? Well, and he goes on to say, well, I'm an electric bass player. And and it's like, well, you're not a musician, right? So sure, you play the electric bass, but are you a musician? And I was trying to relate that, and I couldn't find a good analogy to relate that to massage therapy. It's like, sure, we're a licensed massage therapist, but how much of that are you taking to the next level? If you love working on the body so much, can you fundamentally, let's say, name all the muscles, name all the bones, name the areas of the brain, name all the joints if you truly love it, right? I was asked that
Yeah.
a long time ago. If you love your instrument so much, can you name, and started asking me all these questions? If you really love it, right? If you love your wife or you love your husband, right? Can you answer these questions about it?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So it makes me think about, you graduate from massage school and you are now a massage therapist, and we'll call it entry level massage therapist.
Sure.
Do you have to evolve from that? Do you have to change because you have all the skills necessary to do the things you need to do? And so therefore you could work as a massage therapist. But then another thought is, how do you differentiate yourself from everyone else that does massage? What is it that you do better than anyone else? Why would people come see you? And
Right.
is self improvement part of that process? Do people care? Some people, they just might be content. Hey, I got my license. I'm going to do the same thing that I learned in
Mhm.
massage school for the next 15 years, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to deviate from that sequence.
That
Sequence. I hate
totally,
that word.
yeah, I know that, and that totally does exist. That absolutely exists. And I guess at the end of the day, I mean, it's who that person is,
And
and I
so
guess
then that
that's fine for
person, would
them.
they necessarily suffer from imposter syndrome? Probably not.
Probably not,
Yeah.
but I think at some point, right? I think it's going to catch up to those people in some form or another, whether it's, clients not rebooking or whether it's burnout or something else.
And that
So,
happens. I mean, especially I can see, right now our environment. A lot of people are being more careful about where they're spending their money, and if you are not standing out to them, if you're not showing value to them, why are they going to want to spend money with you and their health?
right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I could say for myself too, man, my clients love to know that I'm constantly learning and constantly, you know, uh I'm not reinventing myself. I'm Nate Fay, but they could tell that I'm constantly learning to create the best environment that I possibly can.
Yeah, you're evolving to help them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another layer, I'm going to call a layer of imposter syndrome is this reach for perfection. And I suffer from this a lot. I'll just admit it right now. Like I feel like I'm not doing enough, even though I'm probably already performing at a high level. Um, but any mistakes or any outcomes that I don't get, it just reinforces the feeling that I don't deserve any successes because I'm not able to, do what I see other people doing, and so therefore I need to do everything that much better. I've got to take more classes. I got to learn that one more thing. Oh, if I would just go to this one more class and learn this one more thing, I could just be there. But I never get there. I never attain that level of perfection that I force upon myself. And hearing myself say it out loud, it's totally crazy. I get that. I understand that. And that's one of the ways to deal with imposter syndrome is speak out loud these things that you're feeling. And I did this with a friend of mine, and I said, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling," and I spoke it out loud just like I did to you right now. And I hear it and
Mm,
I'm like, "Yeah, that's really goofy that I feel that way. Why do I feel that way?"
right.
I kind of feel like we might be in a little bit of a counseling session here between you and I today, Nate.
Well, I think feeling like an imposter, right? It is a counseling session, and that's exactly what one of our answers was. She says there's a lot of times that I feel like I don't deserve to be the space in the space that I am. But hey, people keep rebooking and referring, so I guess I'm doing something right. Right?
Yeah, so there's another layer of not getting that recognition of success. And, even though a therapist might be doing great work, they may not recognize their accomplishments. And so that in itself, recognizing that people are coming back to see them, we don't do a very good job of tooting our own horn because we work for ourselves. We don't have a manager to come in and say, "Yeah, so those TPS reports, you did a really great job last week." How often do we take the time to say, "Hey, I'm going to celebrate that I whatever goal I set for myself this month, I broke that goal, or I helped so and so with their headaches." We don't give ourselves enough credit for what we
Right.
do we?
We really don't. I actually got a message tonight. I got a private message from another massage therapist. And she was picking my brain, and she said, I just want to, then this had nothing to do with our question, but it was kind of interesting time. And she said, She goes, I do all this great work in my office. And she sent me some before and after photos of a particular method that she practices. And then she goes, how can I like post this stuff without sounding arrogant? And in my head, I'm like, listen, girl, if you're doing this work and you're changing people's lives that much, post it, share it.
Yeah, that's comparing that gets into comparing yourself to others.
Right.
You know, like
Like,
what are other people going to think if I share my successes? I
yeah,
came across
she's
this TikTok video that was talking about corporate culture, and it said, if you do something in the corporate world, like a problem comes to you and you handle it, but you don't tell anybody about it, then you don't get any recognition for that. And so
right.
this person was saying, anything that you take care of, go out and go brag about it because your bosses need to know, because then they hear that and they're like, oh yeah, this employee we have, this Nate we have, this guy's a rock star because he's always telling us how busy he is and how he's handling this and handling that. Same
Yeah.
thing when you're a solopreneur. Tell people about your successes. I mean, it sounds like bragging, but I want to hear about your successes. Tell
Right. That's
me.
that,
I want to hear them.
that's what I told her. I haven't told her yet, but that's going to be my response. I'm just post it, share it, girl. Be proud of it. Be proud of that great work that you're doing. I mean, we as one room what solo practitioners, like you said, who else are we going to share it with? That's the
I know.
beautiful thing of social
So
media.
here's the imposter syndrome person, because I am. This is the way my brain thinks. If I share that, there's going to be the negative Nancy's like, "Oh, did you really do that?" That's my
Right.
fear if I were to share my successes, that people are going to poo-poo me.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, anyone out there, share with me your successes, and I want to tell you what a great job you're doing.
Yeah.
Share it on Instagram, Facebook, whatever you got. Just send it to me on email. I'll send it to me and let me post your successes. I'll do it for you. I
Absolutely.
can't do
Yeah.
my own,
Without a
but I
doubt.
wanted I want to share yours.
Without a doubt. I mean, and I would say, going back to Scott's comment too, it's like, yeah, and when we really come around and say all this at the end of the day, it's like, man, we're here, we're doing it, we changed somebody's life, we're asked to do certain things for a reason. I think that's like pretty good for the moment that we're living in.
Let me throw out another layer of imposter syndrome. I have a whole list, just so you know, if you can see that.
Yes.
Um, and this is one I never thought about, but it's having unrealistic expectations with your customers. If they come in with I don't know, rods in their knee, and they want to be able to bend their knee again, that's kind of an unrealistic expectation. But sometimes we have this um pressure sometimes that we feel like we have to fix everything.
Sure.
And so not having those clear goals in place. And I can think of one that I'm working with somebody tomorrow that we need to reevaluate our goals, because I don't know that we're going to be able to get to what they want and what I can provide. And so that may mean, hey, I'm not the right person for you, or hey, we may not get to what you need to get to.
I think it's first of all, it's a hard thing, right? I think many of us, most of us are in this field because we love helping people fundamentally, right? You want to help people feel the way they want to feel. And it's kind of along the lines of what you said. I always find it interesting. It's like a compliment to you, right? It's a compliment to you that somebody with an extremely complicated condition walks into your practice and thinks that you're going to help them, right? And I've had some people walk in with some pretty, uh, really just things that not in any realm of manual therapy would help them. I think my favorite was a woman walked in with, well, we didn't know what it was until after, but it was clear that she had some sort of massive tear in her gluteal region. And it presented as it looked like her glutes, her butt was on the side of her leg.
Wow.
And she thought I could help her with that. And she hadn't been to an orthopedic doctor yet. And I was like, man, I said, you really need to go talk to an orthopedic doctor. And I think the old Nate Faye, maybe the five years ago, Nate Faye would have been like, cool, let's get you on the table and start working on it because it's can be scary to say no. But I think we come off even more as an expert and trustworthy when we actually either say the words I don't know or I don't know, but I think I know somebody that can. And like you said, setting realistic expectations. I had a guy the other day, he has a slew of issues, but unfortunately, it was beat down in his head from other people that he just needs to strengthen his core. And I mean, I won't get into his case because that's not what it's all about. But in his mind, if I just gave him some exercises and did some manipulations of his low back, it would be like
Yeah.
the miracle on ice. And he didn't want to listen to me. I kept talking to him about that, like realistic expectations. And he just kept firing back with, I just need the strength in my core.
Yeah. My
And
PT
that's
told
just,
me that my glutes aren't firing. So I'm not
yeah.
like, it's amazing that you walked in here without your glutes
So,
firing.
so I'm at this point though, I just want to be honest enough to say, listen, this is what we can do and this is what we can't do.
Yeah.
And I'm either for, and we can either work with each other or not, and it's totally fine. But being honest, man, and I think it is being an imposter to try to help everybody and do things that we really can't do.
I tell you, when I graduated massage school, I felt like there was nothing that massage couldn't help with.
They made it seem that way,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I could help people have babies. I could help, do all these things that, it was just amazing what massage could do.
Got a flu? Come see me. I'll boost that immune system.
Yes,
Oh,
boost the immune system, all the things. Like I was just, oh man, it's like, and then, after 5 years, I'm like, why am I not doing these things that I learned I could do in massage school? What am I not, why am I such an imposter?
yeah. Yeah. And it's hard too because it's hard when clients come in with preconceived notions because maybe somebody else told them something. And at that point, they're shut down to listening. And then we really have to change our language and words with them all together to just kind of like redirect the whole thing and listen, I just don't think I'm going to be able to help you. There's nothing wrong with saying that,
Yeah. I love that
right?
story of the lady you saw with with the glute tear or whatever it was. And, it reminds me of somebody getting in a little fender bender and, they get out and they're like, ah, that'll just buff out. It's like, oh, I'll
Yeah,
just go to the massage
right,
therapist. I'll
right.
just take care of that at massage.
And again, total compliment though. It's like a total compliment again that people come in and just think that we can do that stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, in my head, I'm kind of like, whoa, like not rolling my eyes. But Shauna reminds me, actually, I'll come home and Shauna reminds me, she's like, what a compliment, what a compliment that people come in and think that, right?
It is amazing.
Yeah, it is. But I don't know. I'll be honest with you, as we're getting into this here, I think that's actually my favorite example of being an imposter and maybe doing something that
Over promising.
over promising,
Yeah.
right? I think that might be my favorite example so far.
Huh. Is that, yeah. Is that imposter syndrome or is that just, I don't know, overconfidence and undereducation?
I think that too, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of being an imposter, though,
It
right?
is, but
I think it
I
is.
think of imposter syndrome as something different. Like
Sure.
that I call blind, almost blind confidence that you can help anyone and everyone, which is I don't feel as healthy. Being
Right.
able to say I don't know and I need to look into this more. I feel like that's healthier.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get another layer of imposter syndrome. I'm going to throw out to you is and I fall into this category as lack of formal validation. So meaning you know, I have not pursued every certification or continuing education course that's out there. And just 5 years ago, I was making a plan. Okay, how am I going to get certified with Eric Dalton, get an MMT? How am I going to get through Till Lukow's program? How am I going to get through Doug Nelson's program? And how am I going to get
Right.
through who else's Whitney Lowe's program? Those were the four I wanted to do. And, you know, not you feel inferior because you don't have enough education and you don't have education from the right people. If I only took this class, I would know
Would-
everything.
Right.
And to be honest, after taking the coursework with Eric Dalton and getting that piece of paper was helpful for me, because it's like, you know what? I do know something. I don't know everything. And even though I have this piece of paper, it doesn't mean that I can help everybody, but I'm off to a good start.
For sure. For sure. And it's easy on social media too to get swept away with seeing our colleagues going to this class, going to that class. There's that fear of missing out and FOMO, I think the kids call it, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like that's a pretty interesting thing too, and it's this constant man. I don't think I'm going to be able to help that client unless I go and do that.
Yeah. They make it sound so good. Oh, I did a 30-second evaluation and we did this, this, and this, and it took 2 minutes and now this person's all better. And I just want to
Right.
say, bull loney. like like I don't know, and is that just geared to sell attendance to workshops, which I think it is. And you know what? It works. But then, you get these people that come to the workshop and they're like, well, I'm not fixing people like you said you were. Like, what's going on?
Right. Yeah, I think about that a lot when I advertise, my classes and everything, because I see like a lot of that language about, this is going to be practice changing and be the go-to therapist and be this.
Yeah.
And that's not my attitude, man. I want people to come. I just want people to come and learn. Kind of like what we talked about at the beginning. I just want people to have you know, more options, understanding how to speak this language in a little bit more in a little bit of a broader way. Help clients that maybe they weren't able to help, previously, and just have a vast, profound understanding of manual therapy. Because maybe somebody doesn't, maybe people come and they don't want to go grow their practice. Maybe they have that fear. Maybe they don't want to be the go-to therapist and have that overwhelm of being too busy,
Yeah.
right? Maybe some people don't want that. Maybe some people are happy seeing 6 to 8 clients a week and they just want to be better with their hands. So yeah, I think that having those sort of promises and advertisements, it's I don't know,
Yeah.
over
So,
promising and under delivering.
yeah. But also setting your own goals and expectations for what you feel is what success looks like for you as a massage therapist. Because what success looks like for me is different from what success looks like for you. And then we
Totally.
see these people propagating their path to success. If you follow my course, you will be the most successful therapist. You're going to make 6 figures. You're going to do this. You're going to do this, and we're all different. And so, I hear words from people, saying, follow my program and you'll do great. It makes me not want to follow that program.
And again, it all comes back to, and then you go back to your practice and none of that stuff happens. And it's
Yeah.
just such a letdown, such a letdown.
Oh,
So,
it is. All right. How about another layer? Another layer to imposter syndrome. This one I don't necessarily suffer from, or maybe I'm on the other side of it, but it's cultural or gender based expectations. So maybe females are thought of as more nurturing and caregivers versus
mhm.
males are thought of as more technical or more geared toward helping with sports issues or that kind of thing, this kind of thing. And so there's an expectation maybe of a male massage therapist versus a female massage therapist. Are you living up to that expectation as that gender or that culture.
Right, right. Early on in massage school, I mean, we were told those kind of things. Niche yourself, work with people with pain, get out there and down the road, go and teach and that whole thing. But yeah, man, I think we could be, you know, I don't think that should be a gender issue, right? But it is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're in our room and performing the art of compassionate touch, I mean, that fundamentally that's what we do. And people come in not for a fancy technique, not for a sports session or whatever, man. People just want to feel better.
Yeah. How many
And
times have we talked about that? It's not the technique, it's not the
right.
hands-on stuff. It's all the other things that influence therapeutic outcome.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of those things, and luckily some of that stuff's going away, and I don't see it as perpetuated as much. But it certainly is still out there. It exists.
Wow, we've talked a lot about imposter syndrome. Um, what things did we miss, Nate? I mean, I know I brought up my whole list.
Well, how about you, man? You've taught some continuing education classes, right? I mean, I teach continuing education classes, right?
Nate, I've taught some continuing education classes, but not really any major ones within the last 10 years. I taught a class on how to present yourself online one time, and I felt like I rocked it, and it was an awesome class.
Yeah.
And I think about that today, and I'm like, I could never teach that class again because I don't know enough about it. It's kind of the whole Dunning-Kruger type approach where
Right.
I didn't know hardly anything about how to present yourself online. So I was an expert because I read like a few things online about it. Now I'm like,
Sure.
holy crap, I don't know anything.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, but in going, you've assisted with some great teachers too. And did you ever step back and say, man, like, why am I in this position? I shouldn't be here.
You know, I really I want to teach, and it's all those things that I say in my head. I'm not good enough. No one wants to listen to me. This and that, and it keeps me from going out there and doing something. Um, so I'm just going to tell you, Nate. I've come up with a class in the last week. I mean, I've got 4 classes ready to go. I'm just not confident enough to step out there and teach it. But I'm gonna make this announcement right here, right now.
I'm
Ben
ready.
is teaching a class. I'm going to teach an ethics class, and it's going to be soon also because I'm going to challenge myself to do that soon. It's going to be an ethics class, and right now the working title is Mastering the Client Experience for Massage Therapists. So it's going to be a lot about what Nate and I have talked about as far as the non-technique stuff. How can you influence therapeutic outcome through everything like managing expectations, things like that. So you guys here have heard it first. And Nate, if you want, I'm gonna read through this paragraph to talk to people about. Can you tell that I'm nervous about this? Like I'm really nervous about committing to this.
I'm ready.
All right. So in this course, massage therapists will learn the essential skills to evaluate their practice by focusing on client communication, interaction, and managing expectations. Participants will discover how to create a welcoming and positive environment, reduce client uncertainty, and build strong therapeutic alliances. Through practical strategies and proven techniques, therapists will enhance client satisfaction, improve retention, and achieve professional growth. This course combines theoretical knowledge with actionable steps to ensure that every client receives an exceptional massage experience, leading to a thriving and fulfilling practice.
I
What do you
love
think
it.
about that? So this course, this is not a you do what I say course. This is a guide, and if you follow some of these things that I lay out, I think it's going to enhance what you do. And it's going to be a ethics 3-hour ethics, and it's going to be on Zoom. So I'm going to make it accessible to everybody.
I love it. I think it's going to be awesome, man.
So it's scaring the crap out of me to say this out loud, but it's coming up the end of October. I'm gonna throw out the dates later. End of October, and the spillover is gonna be into November. But I do need to get NCB, TMB, provider approval, and that only happens once I teach at least one class. So once I teach that
Awesome.
class and get as approved as a provider, I'll be able to retroactively, approve those certificates too.
You heard it here first.
How
And
scary! This is about the scariest thing I've done all week.
now, now
Can you
you
see?
have to
I'm really warm right now. I'm warm.
listen. Now you have to do it, right? When
I
we
put it
say it,
out
we
there in the
say it.
universe. I told Nate that I'm doing it, and I'm not gonna let Nate down.
That's right. I'm proud of you, buddy. I can't wait. And I think
Woohoo!
it's gonna be awesome.
So if anyone's
And
looking
you
for a CE course in ethics, I'm gonna help you out, and we're gonna
and
have fun too.
you are not an imposter either.
Oh man, I probably will talk about imposter stuff, but so getting back to imposter, let's kind of review what we talked about and some of the things, some of the big takeaways that we had from our little chit chat today. I need to calm down.
Oh, you need to calm down. That's right. Well, I think a big takeaway, right? We're here for a reason. We're doing what we want to do, right? For a good reason. And I know we're kind of wrapping this up, but when I started teaching for and with Eric about 4 years ago, and I mean, he was the guy that I was watching in 2006 at the start of my career on DVDs. So it's kind of cool, like all these years later. And I think to myself, when I stand side by side with him in Costa Rica, I'm like, man, how is this like possible? Right? It's like such a weird experience for me. It's like it's partially a dream come true. And then I kind of ask myself, like, why? Like, why am I up here? You know what I mean? But I remind myself, kind of like Scott said, right? It's like, I'm here for a reason, right? You're doing your thing for a reason. And 4 years ago, when I started teaching, I was admittedly, right, as an amateur teacher, I was teaching in a way that I thought I had to be somebody else, right? And mimic some of the best teachers that, mimic this person, that person, and put it all together. And it worked in the beginning, for me to understand and learn the ropes and what worked and what not worked. But I'll tell you, the biggest thing over the last, 2 years out of the 4 full years, 4 years is just getting up there and being me. And that's like was a real hard thing to do, right? And to kind of get rid of that sort of being an imposter, right? Trying to be somebody that who I wasn't, and just letting my personality and who I am come through, right? So anyway, that and people are coming to see you for a reason, right? So at the end of the day, no matter what you think, you should be doing or shouldn't be doing, people are coming to see you for a reason.
It's the same thing as being a massage therapist and having your doors open and taking patients and clients. You're going to
Yeah.
mess up. You're going to do things the wrong way. You're going to lose people, but you're going to gain people. And you have to go through that process as an instructor. And you have
Right.
to make the mistakes and you have to do the right things and you have to earn people's trust and respect and commitment to you. And I mean, that's what you're doing, Nate. It's freaking fantastic.
We're doing it, buddy.
Yeah.
We're crushing it.
Oh, and we're doing it on this podcast too. We are 25 episodes into it. We haven't quit. There's been times where I know I've called you crying saying, "Nate, I don't know if I can do this anymore." No, I'm kidding. I love
No,
doing
that
this. This
never.
is
Yeah,
this
we
is one of
love
the things
doing
I
it.
look forward to in our during the week is like, "Oh man, I can't wait till we get to do Ben and Nate's questions we ask people on the internet."
That's right. And I've seen it's been kind of cool from episode one to now. And when I check in on our Spotify listens, I'm seeing that number kind of slowly going up a little bit.
Ooh.
Kind of cool to see. It's kind of cool to see those statistics of like this podcast had 2 listens. Now it's like this podcast has more than that, right? A lot more than that.
I like it.
See. So
Nice.
anyway,
Well, speaking about the podcast, let's wrap it up. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about involving imposter syndrome?
no, but what about you? What was your big takeaway?
Oh man, I mean, I just want people to know that if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, if you think that you don't know anything, know that you're not alone. I am, if anything, I suffer more from imposter syndrome than anyone out there. But I want you to know you're not alone, and reach out to me. I'll help you out, but just tell yourself, hey, I'm doing the best I can with what I know right now.
That's right.
And when I know better, I'm going to do better. And then take the time to celebrate your successes. Let other people know. Let me know. Put it on Facebook. Put it on a blimp so I can see it. I want to help celebrate your successes. And, I'm going to take those things to heart myself, and I'm going to work on those also. So those are my big takeaways.
So when we post this episode, here's what we want you to do. We want you to comment below a success that you've had.
Yes.
And make it happen.
Brilliant. Let us know one of your successes in the comments down below.
Let's put it out there.
Awesome. So Nate, tell people a little bit about how this show works.
Well, Ben, we ask people questions on the internet regarding the massage industry, and we want you to answer them. And each week, Ben and I get together and we record these episodes based off around that question and based off your responses. And we pick a few of our favorite ones each week. So yours could be featured on our show.
And I love the longer we're doing this show, the more responses we're getting. So it's great to see that people are interacting with us. And, this show is so much better when you interact with us.
That's right. It sure is.
So Nate, also, I'm going to ask you a question. I didn't prep you for this, but how can people support the show?
They can Venmo Ben and Nate.
Well, let's see. If you like the show, what can people do? I mean, besides listen, what are the things
Share
that? Yeah, there we go.
Share it with your colleagues, man. Hit that share button. Share it with your colleagues.
Tell people about it. Tell your friends. Yeah,
that's right. Don't keep it a secret.
Don't keep it a secret. Don't keep our success a secret.
That's right.
Oh,
Hey, we'll see you next time for episode 26, Ben.
I can't wait.
See you soon, buddy.